All right, let's just dive right into this explainer. I want you to start by picturing a scenario. Just imagine two people, okay? They're starting out in life with the exact same amount of money in the bank. They've got the exact same skills on their resumes, and they've been given the exact same chances, the same opportunities. Visually, they are on an entirely level playing field. But fast forward a decade or two, and their realities couldn't be more different. One of them becomes rich, happy, and, truly free. The other? Well, the other stays completely stuck for life. So why do we see such vastly different results from the exact same starting line? Most of us naturally want to point to luck, right? Or maybe some hidden innate talent. But the truth is, the deciding factor really isn't luck, and it isn't talent. The real separator, the true differentiator between the person who absolutely thrives and the person who stagnates, is simply how they think. It's crazy to consider, but today we're going to break down the exact thinking habits that separate successful people from everyone else. And we're giving you real, usable steps that you can actually start applying today. But hey, before we get to the solutions, we absolutely have to address the elephant in the room. Is hard work really enough? Seriously, we are constantly bombarded with the message that success just comes from doing more. You know the drill. Wake up earlier, work longer hours, hustle, hustle, hustle. It's this widespread myth that sheer volume of effort is the ultimate solution to everything. But if we actually look closely at reality, plenty of people work incredibly hard their entire lives, literally breaking their backs day in and day out, and yet they still stay entirely stuck. So yeah, hard work is important, absolutely. But on its own, it is clearly not the ultimate answer. And that brings us to section 1, the myth of hard work and the trap of average thinking. Let's get into it. So if a lack of hard work isn't the real problem, what is? Well, the core issue is actually what we call average thinking. Average thinking is when you focus heavily on safety rather than pushing for growth. It's when you're just trying to survive today rather than, say, strategically planning for the next 10 years. Average thinking obsesses over what could go wrong instead of envisioning what could go right. And here's another harsh truth that most people avoid. Being smart, being talented, being born into good circumstances. Guys, these are unearned advantages. You cannot take pride in things you were simply given, right? None of that was actually earned by you. The only thing you can genuinely be proud of in this life are your choices, your daily discipline. Now, I know it is so much easier to blame your circumstances than to admit that the way you think is a choice, and it's a choice you've been making the exact same way for years. But the good news? Just like any discipline, thinking like a successful person can be learned, trained, and improved. All right, let's move right along to section 2, rethinking limits and failure. This is where we look at how the world's most successful people fundamentally rewire their brains to handle obstacles. Because, listen, it's not that they don't face problems. It's how they process those problems that changes the game entirely. The absolutely crucial point here is how you view a roadblock. When unsuccessful people hit something they don't know how to do, they see it as a giant wall that stops them dead in their tracks. They just stop. But successful people, they do something entirely different. They take that limitation and they treat it as just another task on their agenda. Their mindset is incredibly simple. They just say, okay, I don't know this yet, so my job today is to go learn it. A limitation isn't the end of the road for them. It's literally just the next thing on their to-do list. And this totally carries over into how they view failure. Successful people radically reframe it. They don't see it as a loss. They actually see it as revenue. It is simply the necessary payment for a lesson that only direct experience could teach them. By shifting that perspective, failure stops being this permanent identity and starts becoming a valuable business transaction, one that buys them crucial experience for the future. When they do fail, they ask themselves one highly specific question: what's wrong with what I did? Notice that? They don't look around the room to find a scapegoat. They don't complain. They check themselves instead of blaming others. And it's this quiet persistence, this willingness to analyze your own missteps and keep moving again and again through rejection, that is exactly what separates the people who eventually make it from the people who give up right before their massive breakthrough. Okay, moving right along to section 3, mastering focus and vision and chasing a calling. The highest achievers in the world allocate their mental energy very, very differently. Keep in mind, these individuals aren't just chasing a paycheck to pay the bills. They are chasing a calling. Because if you don't actually love what you're doing, you're never going to have the endurance to be truly great at it. They choose work they would do even if the money wasn't guaranteed, which is exactly what carries them through the hard days when everyone else just calls it quits. Now, to sustain that calling, you have to be relentless with your focus. Think about it. Most people spread their energy incredibly thin, trying to do 100 different different things and doing none of them well. It's like a giant puzzle with missing pieces. But focused thinking means cutting out the noise. It means putting your energy exclusively into the top 20% of activities that actually move the needle, leaving the remaining 80% of distractions completely behind. Successful people go incredibly narrow and they go incredibly deep. But at the same time, they also practice big picture thinking. They're constantly learning, listening, and seeing how everything connects way beyond their own small world. But here's the catch. To maintain that focus, you really have to fight your brain's default programming. For most of us, when presented with a new idea or a big vision, our very first thought is, why this won't work, right? We've all been there. This is the default setting of popular average thinking. It is inherently obsessed with limits, with impossibilities, and with finding the flaw in the plan. And remember, popular thinking feels safe because, well, everyone agrees with it. But it will only ever lead you to popular average results. So, to break out of that average result, you have to completely flip the script. Successful people train themselves to ask, how could this work? Just that one shift. Flipping this single question immediately raises your energy. It literally pulls you out of the crowded room of skeptics and right into the realm of possibility. The people who change the game are almost never the ones who simply follow the crowd. They are absolutely obsessed with finding paths forward. Let's move on to Section 4. Separating money from emotion, and the specific rules to follow. We've talked a lot about mindset so far, but how does this actually translate into concrete, mechanical rules? Because look, accumulating wealth is one thing, but protecting it and ensuring it grows, that requires a highly specific set of rules. Specifically, it requires an inverted wealth formula. Income minus investment equals expenses. Now, this concept is the exact opposite of what most people do. Successful people ensure their future is fully funded before a single dollar or rupee ever touches their expense account. They are paying their future selves first. The financial sequence for them is incredibly simple. Earn, then invest, then spend. The backwards average approach is to earn, spend absolutely everything you possibly can, and then, cross your fingers and hope to invest whatever happens to be left over, which, let's be honest here, is almost always nothing. By flipping the sequence, successful people mechanically guarantee their financial growth. It's practically automatic. But managing money and making high-stakes decisions requires way more than just a math formula. It requires professional boundaries. Successful people know that high emotion actually lowers your intelligence in the moment. The calmer you stay, the smarter your decision becomes. So what do? They keep emotion completely out of their money. They learn to compartmentalize. It's much like a commercial pilot who is highly trained to leave all personal worry right outside the cockpit door. They don't ignore their feelings, they just actively choose when to deal with them, making sure a bad morning never, ever wrecks an important professional decision. And that brings us to our final section and the ultimate success habit. Section 5, Quiet Obsession. This is the truly profound insight about what is really happening behind closed doors for the top performers in the world. It's the engine that drives everything else we've just talked about. See, a lot of people just assume that successful people are simply fearless, but they aren't. They feel the exact same doubt, the exact same fear, and the exact same uncertainty as everyone else. The difference? The difference is obsession. But I'm not talking about the loud obsession you see on stage where people are seeking applause. The real competition happens behind the scenes. It's the quiet obsession. It's that daily, unglamorous grind when absolutely no one is watching. That quiet obsession is exactly what allows them to push through the fear that stops everyone else dead in their tracks. Consider this really powerful metaphor. Your mind is a mountain of gold, not a cashed-in lottery ticket. Most people stumble upon one good idea in their life and they try to coast on it, right? Just living off it forever. But successful people know you cannot survive on just one good idea. You absolutely must treat your mind as a resource that requires daily, relentless minding. Every single day demands new work. So, I'll leave you with this final challenge today. If changing your thinking changes your actions, and changing your actions changes your life, where do you begin? Take a look at the playbook we just walked through. Which idea will you choose today? Will you turn a limitation into a task? Will you invest before you spend? Will you ask, how could this work, instead of why won't it? Start small. Just pick one concept from this explainer, stay consistent with it, and start actively shaping your life right now. Because ultimately, your thinking shapes your life, one single decision at a time. So what's your next decision going to be?